The doctor did not plan to destroy a family that Tuesday morning. He was just doing his job. He was just running the tests he always ran when a young woman died too soon in a way that did not make complete sense to him. He was just being thorough. But what those tests found in Chisom's body that morning was not an illness. It was a decision. Someone had made a decision, slowly and carefully and deliberately, over 3 years, to end this woman's life. And this someone was sitting in the hospital waiting room at that exact moment, crying, wearing black, telling anyone who would listen what a wonderful daughter-in-law Chisom had been. Let me take you back to the beginning of this story, because before Chisom was a body on a hospital table, with test results that would tear a family apart, she was a woman who loved her husband completely and believed, with everything in her, that his mother would eventually love her too. She had believed that for 3 years. She had been wrong for 3 years, and it had killed her. Her name was Chisom Okafor, before she married. Then she became Chisom Ademi, 28 years old, a teacher at a primary school in Sarila, Lagos. The kind of woman that people describe by saying she lit up a room, and they mean it. Not as a phrase, but as a literal observation. When Chisom walked in somewhere, things got warmer. She had grown up in Anambra, the third daughter of a retired civil servant who had raised 5 children on a government salary and managed it with the specific Nigerian parental genius of making children feel rich, even when the money was not rich. She was loved properly, growing up. The kind of love that makes a person generous because they are not afraid there is not enough to go around. She met Emeka Ademi at a colleague's birthday party in Lekki in 2018. He was standing near the drinks table, looking slightly uncomfortable the way tall, quiet men look at loud parties, and she walked up and said, "You look like you would rather be at home." He laughed. "Say, Lowe's." They talked until the party ended, and then they stood in the parking lot and kept talking until the security guard asked them to leave. 6 months later, he brought her home to meet his family in Ibadan. The family was his mother and his younger brother. His father had died when Emeka was 17. It had been the 3 of them since then. Mama Ratimi, Emeka, and the younger one, Ratimi. And in the years between his father's death and Chisom's arrival, Mama Ratimi had arranged herself around Emeka, the way some mothers arranged themselves around the son who did not leave completely, totally, as though he was not just her child but her entire occupation. Emeka was her project and her pride and her reason and her proof that she had survived the hard years after her husband died. He was hers. And then Chisom arrived. Mama Ademi's name was Felicia. She was 61 years old. A woman who had survived real difficulty, the early years of widowhood, the financial strain, the weight of raising 2 boys alone in a city that did not slow down for grief. She was not a simple villain. Let that be said. She was a woman who had paid serious prices and had decided somewhere along the way that what she had fought to keep was not going to be taken from her. She had decided this about Emeka before Chisom ever walked through the door. Any woman who came for her son was going to find that door harder to walk through than they expected. But what Felicia felt about Chisom specifically was something that surprised even her in its intensity. Because Chisom was not a bad wife. Chisom was not disrespectful or lazy or difficult. Chisom was warm and capable and loved Emeka genuinely and was building a life with him that any mother should have been grateful for. That was almost the problem. Chisom did not need fixing, did not need guidance, did not need Mama Ademi's input or correction or management. She had arrived already complete, already kind, already capable, already making Emeka happy in ways that had nothing to do with his mother. And Felicia, who had spent 20 years being the most important woman in her son's life, found herself suddenly standing at the edge of something that had been reorganized without her permission. She smiled at Chisom. At that first meeting, she cooked pepper soup and puff-puff and told the girl she was welcome. She said, in front of Emeka, that Chisom was a good woman and she was happy for her son. She said all the right things. She meant none of them. Emeka and Chisom married in December 2018. A proper ceremony in Ibadan followed by a church blessing in Lagos. The photographs were beautiful. Chisom wore a white dress and an Asahok wrapper in deep burgundy and gold, and she smiled in every single photograph, with a specific happiness of a woman who has found what she was looking for and knows it. Mama Felicia was in many of those photographs. Smiling. The trouble started small. The way the worst kinds of trouble always start. The first year, Mama Felicia began visiting more frequently. Every 2 weeks, then every week. She would arrive at their apartment in Surulere on Friday evenings and stay until Sunday afternoon. She took over the kitchen on those weekends. She reorganized Chisom's pots. She had opinions about how Emeka's shirts were ironed, and his meals were seasoned and his morning routine was managed. Chisom said nothing the first time. She said nothing the second time. She mentioned it gently to Emeka the third time, and Emeka said what men whose mothers raised them alone often say she means well. She loves you. Just give her time. Chisom gave her time. She also gave her the kitchen, the ironing, the opinions. She was a generous woman. She accommodated. She believed patience was the right tool for this situation. She did not know patience was the wrong tool entirely. The second year, Chisom began feeling tired. Not the normal tired of a woman who taught 30 children every day and managed a home and navigated a complicated mother. This was a different tired. A tired that did not lift after a full night's sleep. A tired that sat in her bones like something heavy had moved in and was not planning to leave. She went to the doctor. The doctor found nothing specifically wrong. Some anemia, gave her iron tablets. Said she was working too hard. Said she needed rest. She rested. The tired did not lift. By the third year, the tired had become something else entirely. Weight falling off her frame, even though she was eating. A persistent stomach pain that came and went without clear cause. Hair thinning at the temples. Eyes that were dull in the mornings, even after 8 hours in bed. She visited 4 different doctors. Every one of them found something small. A vitamin deficiency here, a minor infection there, but none of them found anything that fully explained why a 29-year-old woman in what should have been the best years of her life was slowly, quietly, becoming less. Emeka was worried. He took her to the best private hospital in Lagos. More tests, more small findings, nothing definitive. Chisom herself told her mother on the phone one evening, her mother in Anambra who called every Sunday and always noticed the specific tone of her daughter's voice in the way that only mothers notice. She said, "Mama, I don't know what is happening to my body. I am tired in a way I cannot explain." Her mother said, "Come home for a week. Rest properly." Chisom said she would come in December. She did not make it to December. Mama Felicia had been coming every week throughout the second and third year of the marriage. She had become, in many ways, a permanent fixture in their home. She brought food from Ibadan, each visit wrapped in leaves and packed in plastic containers. The way Yoruba mothers packed food, carefully and with love. That looked like love and functioned like something else entirely. She brought egusi soup. She brought palm oil stew. She brought pepper soup, as she said was for Chisom's tiredness. Specifically good for the blood, she said. She said her own mother had taught her this recipe. She insisted Chisom drink it while it was still hot. Chisom drank it. Refusing food from your mother-in-law in a Yoruba home is not a small thing. It is a statement. It causes and Chisom was not a woman who wanted wahala. She drank the soup. She drank the pepper soup. She ate what was brought and thanked Mama Felicia with genuine warmth because that was who she was. She had no idea. In late October of the third year, Chisom collapsed in her classroom. The children screamed. The other teachers ran. The ambulance came and Emeka was called at work, and he drove to the hospital with his hands shaking on the steering wheel. The way a man drives when he is praying in the only prayer that is just one word repeated. "Please, please, please, please." She was admitted. Stabilized. The doctors said she was severely dehydrated and her organs were showing signs of stress that they could not immediately explain. They ran tests. They asked questions. They wanted to keep her for observation. She was in that hospital for 11 days. Then she came home. She was thinner. She moved carefully the way people move when their body has become unfamiliar to them. But she was home and she was alive, and Emeka sat beside her bed every evening and held her hand and told her she was going to be fine. Mama Felicia visited 3 times during those 11 days in hospital. She brought pepper soup each time. The nurses warmed it for Chisom. Chisom drank it because it was her mother-in-law, and because refusing felt impossible even here, even now. She died on a Thursday morning in November. Quietly, in her sleep, Emeka woke at 5:30 in the morning to his alarm and turned to her, and she was gone. He did not understand it immediately. His mind refused the information. He touched her face. He said her name. He said it several times. Then louder. Then he was on the floor beside the bed, making a sound that brought the neighbor running at 5:30. The ambulance came. Chisom was taken to Lagos University Teaching Hospital. The doctor on duty that morning was a man named Dr. Babatunde Ose. He had been a physician for 18 years. He had seen many things. He had certified many deaths. He was not a dramatic man or a suspicious man by nature, but he was a thorough one. And something about Chisom's case bothered him the way a piece of a puzzle bothers you when it does not fit the picture on the box. A 29-year-old woman, 3 years of declining health that multiple doctors could not fully explain. Weight loss, fatigue, organ stress, new definitive, and now death in her sleep. He ordered a full toxicology screening, not because he was certain of anything, because he was thorough. He was thorough, and what the toxicology report found 3 days later made him sit at his desk for a long time without moving. Heavy metal poisoning. Arsenic specifically, not accidental exposure, not environmental contamination. The levels in Chisom's body told a story of consistent, regular ingestion over a prolonged period. The story the levels told was measured in years, not days. Someone had been giving this woman arsenic for approximately 2 to 3 years. In small amounts, regular amounts, the kind of amounts that make a person tired and ill, and slowly, quietly, less without any single dose being large enough to trigger immediate alarm. Dr. Ase read the report. Then he read it again. Then he picked up the phone and called the police. He did not call Emeka first. He called the police, because a thorough doctor who finds arsenic in a dead young woman's body understands that calling the family first is the wrong order of operations. The police arrived at the hospital. They reviewed the report. They asked Dr. Ase questions. He answered precisely. Then they drove to the address on Chisom's file, the Adeyemi apartment in Surilor. Emeka was there. He had not slept. He was sitting at the kitchen table in the same clothes he had been wearing when he found her, and his eyes were the eyes of a man who has lost the person who made his life make sense and does not yet know how to exist in the new version of everything. When the police came in and told him what the toxicology report had found, he did not understand immediately. Arsenic, they said. Poisoning, they said. Over 3 years, they said. He looked at them. Then he asked them to say it again. They said it again. And in the kitchen behind him, on the stove, was a pot of pepper soup. Mama Felicia had arrived that morning from Ibadan at 7 a.m. She had said a grieving son needed feeding. She had gone straight to the kitchen when she arrived. She was there when the police knocked. She came out of the kitchen wiping her hands on a cloth and saw the officers and the expression on her son's face. And something happened in her own face that was too fast and too small for Emeka to catch, but not too fast for the officer standing directly opposite her. That officer had seen that expression before. It was not grief. It was calculation. Mama Felicia said, "What has happened? What is going on?" She said it in the voice she always used, warm, maternal. The voice of a woman who was always the most concerned person in any room. Emeka turned and looked at his mother. He looked at her. The way you look at someone when a thought arrives, that is so large and so terrible that your mind refuses to finish forming it. He looked at the pot on the stove. He looked at his mother. He looked at the officers. The senior officer said, "Madame, we need you to come with us." Mama Felicia said, "Me? What for? I have done nothing. My son's wife just died. I am here to take care of my son." "Madam," the officer said again, stepping forward. "Please, come with us." She looked at Emeka. And Emeka, who had loved this woman his entire life, who had been her project and her pride and her reason, who had stood at a wedding altar and put a ring on Chisom's finger while this woman smiled in the front row. Emeka looked at his mother and said nothing. He said absolutely nothing. and his silence was the loudest thing in that kitchen. They took Mama Felicia in for questioning. In the first 3 hours, she denied everything. She was loud. She was righteous. She said it was an insult. She said she loved Chisom like her own daughter. She said she had given her pepper soup because she wanted her to get better. She said these policemen were mad. In the 4th hour, they showed her the toxicology report. She went quiet. In the 6th hour, they showed her where the arsenic had been sourced. A traditional medicine dealer in Ibadan who sold it as a pesticide and who had sold it to a woman matching Mama Felicia's description on 3 separate occasions over 3 years. The dealer had already been interviewed. He remembered her. He had her face on a security camera that he did not know was there. In the 7th hour, Mama Felicia stopped being loud. In the 8th hour, she asked for water. In the 9th hour, she said something that the officer in the room wrote down and which would later be used in court, and which would be repeated by people in the neighborhood of Suralar 4 years afterward. She said, "I only wanted my son back." 5 words. I only wanted my son back. Not a denial. Not an explanation. Not anything that sounded remotely like it understood what it had done. Just a statement of want, as though Chisom had been a thing standing between her and something that belonged to her. As though 3 years of arsenic in a pepper soup was a reasonable response to loving a son. Emeka was in the police station corridor when they told him what she had said. He was sitting on a plastic chair with his elbows on his knees and his face in his hands. They told him. He sat there. He sat there for a long time. Then he stood up and he walked to the door of the room where his mother was sitting. He looked at her through the glass window. Mama Felicia saw him and raised her hand toward the glass. Emeka remembered Chisom telling him she was tired in a way she could not explain. He remembered telling her it was stress, that his mother meant well. He had handed his wife back to the woman who was killing her. He thought about the pepper soup Chisom, drinking it to avoid wahala. He thought about 36 visits over 3 years. He pressed his hand flat against the glass window, not reaching, not forgiving, a gesture of a man saying goodbye to something he loved and could never get back. Not his wife. He had already said goodbye to her. He was saying goodbye to his mother. He turned and walked away from the glass, not looking back. The trial happened 6 months later. Mama Felicia's lawyer tried arguments. She was old, grieving, hadn't understood the substance. She only wanted her son closer. But the toxicology report, security camera footage, and traditional medicine dealer did not care. The judge did not care. She was sentenced to 14 years. When the sentence was read, Emeka did not react, sitting very still. Rotimi, his younger brother, was beside him. Rotimi had said almost nothing for 6 months. He carried the specific grief of discovering the woman who raised him was capable of such destruction. After the sentence, the 2 brothers stood outside the courthouse in the Ibadan afternoon heat. Rotimi said, "I keep thinking about the pepper soup." Emeka said nothing. "Every time she came," Rotimi said, "she brought pepper soup. That is how she loves, through food." And it was still that, Rotimi said. Her way of being present in your house involved. He stopped. She just added something. The word something sat between them. Emeka looked at his brother. He said, "Chisom used to save some for you when you visited. Did you know that? She would always set some aside for you because she knew you liked it." Rotimi's face broke. They stood there, 2 brothers, pieces of a destroyed family. They did not hug or cry or say anything useful. They just stood there, understanding without words that they were all each other had now. Emeka went back to Lagos, to the apartment in Surulor, where Chisom's things were exactly as she had left them, her lesson notes on the desk, her church shoes by the door, her wrapper folded on the chair. He sat in the apartment for a long time. Then he did something. He called Chisom's mother in Anambra. Mama Chisom had been devastated. Emeka told her about the toxicology report. He told her about the arsenic, the pepper soup, Mama Felicia, the medicine dealer, the security camera, the interrogation, and the 5 words, "I only wanted my son back." Mama Chisom was silent for a long time. Then she said something unexpected. "My daughter told me in the 2nd year that her mother-in-law's pepper soup made her feel strange. Not sick, just strange. She didn't want to be ungrateful. I told her she was imagining it. I told her it was stress. Emeka could not speak. I told her she was imagining it, Mama Chisom said again, quietly. Who's de facto resting on both of them? Things that are nobody's fault and everybody's fault. Things that happen because a woman didn't want wahala, and a husband said she means well, and a mother said it was stress, and a community built on accommodation created space in that silence for something terrible to grow for 3 years. Nobody in that silence had bad intentions, except one person. But silence is a room that the wrong people know how to use. 3 years after the trial, Emeka still lives in Lagos. He moved from Surila because the apartment became too full of what was no longer there. He visits Chisom's family in Anambra twice a year. Mama Chisom calls him every Sunday, talking about Chisom and other ordinary things. He does not visit. He has not seen his mother since he pressed his hand against the glass and walked away. Rotami visits her in prison, telling Emeka each time. Emeka listens, not asking questions. He has not yet decided what he owes her. He thinks it might take the rest of his life to decide. He has accepted that some things do not resolve into clean conclusions, but become part of what a person carries. What Emeka knows is this: Chisom was the warmest person he will ever know. Somewhere in Ibadan, his mother is counting years in a room she didn't expect. Between those two things, Lagos tells the truth. Love which controls is not love. A mother who cannot let her child go has not understood what a child is. A woman insisting on being irreplaceable can do irreplaceable damage. And pepper soup, that symbol of maternal care, is one of the most beautiful things. Unless it isn't. Unless it is something else. Wearing the face of love, which is the most dangerous thing in the world. Because we drink it. Because we are grateful. Because we do not want to cause wahala. Because we trust the hands that feed us. And sometimes, God forgive us for not knowing sooner. Sometimes we should not. Now, I want to ask you something. Many people cared about Chisom. Emeka told her his mother meant well. Her own mother told her she was imagining it. Nobody was trying to fail Chisom. But everyone, in their own small way, gave the wrong thing enough room to keep going. So here is my question. If Chisom had spoken louder, caused the wahala she was trying to avoid, demanded to be believed, would anyone have listened? Or would they have told her, again, that she was imagining it? Tell me in the comments. And tell me this too, can you ever forgive a person who does something unforgivable because of love? Because Mama Felicia did not do what she did from hatred. She did it from the most consuming, selfish, destructive version of love. Does that change anything? I want your honest answer. Drop it below. See you in the next story.